It is Powwow.
The Powwow with Mo podcast.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Powwow with Mo podcast. Powwow is not here today, so I'm Mo, and this is Dom.
Hey, sorry I'm not Powwow.
Oh, it's fine. We're going to try to do an NBA one. Powwow hasn't even really started watching the NBA yet, so I think it worked out for the best in these topics. So we'll see. Current events wise, there's only really two things that's happened since the last time we recorded this that I've paid attention to. One is, of course, Trump stuff. Mike Flynn pleads guilty.
Yeah.
I have no idea what all of this means or what it's even going to lead to. And I try to not be too political. So, I mean.
Yeah, I feel the same. I try to not look politically into things just because I already feel society's messed up from where we're at now. The whole Flynn case, does that mean, like,
Well,
we've been talking about this for now, months? Does this ultimately lead up to Trump being impeached?
right. I don't think so, personally. I think there's nothing he could do. I know that sounds horrible. To a lot of people would prefer there to be options. I just don't really think it's going to happen. And all he's pled guilty to is he's lied about what he said in his communications with Russia. So I think what the big deal is, it opens the door to him to cooperate with them and share other knowledge. But we'll try not to get into it too much here. But notice that. And then also, Tiger Woods' comeback. I didn't look where he's at as of this morning.
Well, because the first two rounds he did amazing. Then that third round yesterday, it was a bad time. He ended up dropping fully out of contention.
Bummer. So that was fun for a little while, and then it went away.
Yeah.
I think everyone tries to cheer for Tiger just because, his life went downhill really fast after one car wreck, after getting caught with like 23 women.
Look, in my opinion, he should have just lived his life to begin with. Like, if I want to date all these porn stars, just let me do it.
Yeah, but I think the issue was he was married to a woman who wasn't down with that, and he had to hide it. Or maybe she was and he didn't. I don't know. Either way,
he shouldn't have been married to her then.
Right. So lately, I've mentioned the video games I've been playing. So basically, I just showed you Nier Automata. It's a crazy looking game.
Yeah.
I've been playing that, still Valkyria Chronicles, and Sims 4. Just kind of juggling all three of those around, trying not to get too bored with one. And they're all pretty good. Is there anything you've been playing lately?
Well, the thing I've been messing around with, I've been playing Injustice 2, trying to get my fighting game chops back on.
Did you get the Ninja Turtles? I heard they're coming to Injustice.
They're coming, but I don't have them yet. They don't come out for another few weeks, I think.
That's honestly what made me be like, I might get Injustice. I liked Injustice 1, so I was like, I might get Injustice 2 if I could play as the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. I think they're going to be like split into, you can only pick one character, but you can play between the four, like as one character slot. So you couldn't fight as Rafi one round, Raphael, or Michelangelo the next. I think you have to pick one.
Gotcha. Well, right on. And then I watched, I don't know if you listened to the last podcast, John, but I started The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is his Amazon Prime show about this lady doing stand-up comedy back, I want to say the 60s, but I really have no clue. It might be the late 50s. Actually, I think late 50s. They mentioned JFK might be running for president. I think he won in 60. So, finish that. There's only 8 episodes, but it's really good. So, if you have Amazon Prime, highly recommend watching the show. It's super funny. I liked it a lot.
Man, I don't know if I can get Amazon Prime. I feel like I'm on every single thing. I'm on Netflix, which they are increasing their prices, in case you all missed that. They're increasing it to $11 or $10.99 a month. So,
well, something came out that they're actually losing a lot of money every year because they're spending so much on making content now that people aren't just giving all their stuff so easily. So we'll see what Netflix does. I mean, I like every original Netflix show, so I don't see any time where me canceling it's going to be a possibility unless I'm just so broke like I can't afford it, and that might happen. But yeah, I have that, Hulu. I do CBS All Access, all for Big Brother.
Of course.
I mean, I've been watching some Young Sheldon. Young Sheldon's way better than The Big Bang Theory, so I actually enjoy watching that every week. Something I finally got Powwow to watch after months and months is The Orville. So I don't know if you have Hulu. but the Orville's on there, and it is amazing.
See, I have a buddy who's literally just mentioned this the other day that it's great. I'm like, I'm not a Star Trek guy. I know it's different.
I don't like Star Trek either. But I do love Stargate, which is a way different concept. You know, it's not set in the future like this. This is very much a Star Trek parody, but the characters are all funny enough that, like, you'll want to watch it every week. Like, the story's good enough to keep you coming back, but when you watch it, it's funny enough that you're like, yeah, this is a good time. It's a good mixture. Like, every week, I'm like, oh, shit, there's a new Orville. And we watch it, like, immediately as soon as I remember. So I would highly recommend it.
I might look into it then. I mean, I have Hulu, so I think it comes on there.
Yeah, it does. All right, so let's just go ahead and get to our top 5 list, our top 5 favorite basketball NBA players all time. Again, these aren't going to be the best players. Just be your favorite. So I think of it more as my fandom for certain players as opposed to who I thought was the best.
Yeah, it's going to be, This is definitely a fan pick for me. A lot of them except one. One should definitely be an all-time top 5, but we'll get to that.
All right, Dom, so what do you have as your number 5?
My number 5 is I have Hakeem, the Dream Olajuwon.
That's a good one. I probably wasn't really just watching basketball when he was like a big deal. Like I was barely when at the very end, and then my very young. When I first started watching him ending playing, I'm sure crossover just barely.
Yeah.
But because of that, I just don't really have any memories. I know he's great.
Yeah, he's super good. Like the biggest memory for me is actually like my dad teaching me the Dream Shake. That's his patented move. The Hakeem's patented move is the Dream Shake. So when I was growing up doing basketball, I always tried to do that, and I watched videos of Hakeem doing it. I was like, geez, this guy's good. He's kind of like Embiid before Embiid. If Embiid was healthy, he would be Hakeem Olajuwon.
Right, well, because the whole thing was, right, he was from Africa. He played soccer his whole life, picked up basketball late, so he had all this footwork that most basketball players didn't.
Exactly.
And then he really used that to thrive in the NBA. And then the 2 years, or the 1 year Jordan was off, and then the year he came back, he took that time to win 2 championships.
Yeah, and there's always the debate. If Jordan didn't take that year off, would the Rockets have won those 2 back-to-back years?
Maybe. I don't know. I think that's a good debate because I think Jordan quit because he was mentally not there at the time. And so then if he kept playing, I don't know if he would have mentally been able to keep it going.
See, you think he was not mentally prepared, but in conspiracy land, he was suspended.
I have heard that.
Suspended for gambling, so.
All right, so my number 5, and this is almost all because of a video game. It's because on Sega Genesis, one of my favorite video games of all time was Charles Barkley's Shut Up and Jam.
Yep, I still have it to this day.
I love that game. I think he was the only NBA player actually in the game. The rest of the characters were like street ball caricatures. Yeah. But I just really loved that game enough that then when I would watch basketball, I'd be like, oh yeah, I love Charles Barkley. And so I just really like Charles Barkley. I mean, now I appreciate his game as well. Like he was the original stretch 4.
Yep.
He was basically like, I think even more of like Blake Griffin. He was like Blake Griffin, but then, because he didn't really shoot threes necessarily, but he could take it to the rim. He didn't dunk like him, but he scored in a similar way.
Yeah, he was like, he's an all-time like most athletic fat man, basically. Like,
right.
He's just a weirdly shaped guy. He's 6'5", yet he was leading the league in rebounds. Like,
yeah, almost like the original Draymond in a way.
Yeah.
Like a weird mixture of Draymond and Blake Griffin. And he talks a lot of shit now, and he's super funny now on TNT doing his commentary. I mean, he's probably better as a commentator than he ever was as a basketball player.
I mean,
and
he was got a really good for it now. So.
Right, and he was a really good basketball player. I mean, he suffered from the whole playing with Jordan, basically, so he never got his ring. But I loved Charles Barkley as a kid. Like, I just liked him then, and then now every time he talks shit, I just think it's super funny. Big fan. Charles Barkley all around.
Agreed. All
right, so who is your number 4?
So my number 4 is the answer, AI.
That is my number 3, but we'll go ahead and talk about it.
All right, yeah. So number 4, AI, the culture, basically. Like, he is the originator of bringing the culture to the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I just really I like guards almost always over forwards. Guards are more fun.
Yep.
And he was just the one-man show of what Westbrook was last year was kind of what he was always. I mean, everyone compares Westbrook to all these different people, but he really is just like Iverson, very similar. I mean, he was like, "This is my team. I'm going to run the show." And there was like all these times where he almost got traded. I was just reading recently about how Iverson almost got traded to Detroit the year before they went to the finals.
Really?
But there was some like 12th man on the bench, white dude. He might not have been white, but in my mind reading it, he was like he might have been. He was like some like just big dude right on the bench and never got any playing time. But he had a trade kicker in his contract, and so the trade was going to send Allen Iverson and then this dude to Detroit, and then that guy looked at Detroit's roster and goes, "I don't think me and AI would like it there." So he said he wouldn't void his trade kicker. So then the deal got canceled, and then Allen Iverson took Philadelphia to the finals. And then after that, he kind of that was his team. But it's really funny just to think how close it was to not being that.
Wow, that's insane. Detroit would have come up different because at that point they wouldn't have had Chauncey Billups. So
Right.
Completely changed the landscape right there.
Right. And I don't know, I just really liked AI back the day, and he had the whole we're talking about practice rant, which was the best. And there's like all these myths now of how he would be out till 4 a.m. the night before a game at a strip club and then come in and score 45 points. And
oh yeah, he's a definitely
well, and I think he's lost all of his money too, like all of his basketball money. He lost.
Yeah, that's why he
gambling.
teamed up with Ice Cube to do the Big Three.
Right, like it's crazy lifestyle in general.
Lifestyle I would love to live.
So you had AI number 4. That was my number 3. For my number 4, I have to say Gary Payton.
GP, GP, the biggest shit talker I've ever seen.
So as a kid, I just didn't like Jordan for whatever reason because he was too good and he always won, and I just didn't want to like him. And Gary Payton, for whatever reason, was like my antithesis to Jordan. I was like, but I like that guy. I loved the Sonics when I was a kid, so it's kind of cool the Sonics became the Thunder.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just really like Gary Payton. And also on video games, he had a really high steal rating, so you could get steals very easily. Yeah, he was called the Glove
for a reason.
Right, so, and he just talked a lot of shit, like you said. Like, his shit talking was the best. So whenever he went to the Lakers, I was really hoping that was all going to work out with him and Karl Malone. It did not. But I was thinking, like, yeah, he's finally going to get his ring because he was ring chasing, and it all fell.
Oh, man, it's super sad, too. That Lakers team. Ugh. But he did eventually get his ring by going to Miami, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was on that Miami team. But, yeah, Gary Payton, I don't know if he really does anything anymore. He should be in the Big Three just to get steals.
I mean, I see videos of him from like, this basketball, like, dunk challenge thing. He's just kind of in the crowd there to hype people up.
That's crazy. All right, so who is your number 3?
My number 3 is, and we just talked about AI, but that guy on steroids, which is Russ.
All right. I have Westbrook as my number 1.
Oh, man.
So we'll go and talk about it.
All right. We don't have to talk about it.
Okay.
Wait till we get to your number.
All right, so what's your number 2?
All right, my number 2 is T-Mac, Tracy McGrady.
Ooh, he would have probably been like number 6 on my list. Like, I just always really liked Tracy McGrady. I kind of have like my liking is regressing a little bit on him because so many people these days are coming around how great he was. But back in the day, nobody liked Tracy, or a lot less people liked Tracy McGrady, and I was always defending him. So now to be everyone be like, no, always like Tracy McGrady, I'm like, you're bullshitter.
Yeah, exactly. Like the argument always was T-Mac, Vince Carter, or Kobe. That was the argument. Yeah. And I was a big T-Mac guy, and also Kobe guy. Wasn't much of a Vince Carter guy, but T-Mac is definitely, if he didn't have injuries, I think he would be an all-time 20 player.
Well, right, and I think that's why, like, me personally, I don't look at the ring argument much because at the end of the day, if these players were just on different teams on different years, then they would have won a, like, if T-Mac was on the Spurs early in his career, I'm sure Greg Popovich could have figured out a way to use him and Tim Duncan and some ultra scheme we're out using. So, like,
yeah, T-Mac would have took the Kawhi Leonard role at that point in time.
So I just think a lot of it is based on, like, well, who's your coach and where are you at that time? And with him on the Rockets, that was the whole Yao Ming era. They were coming off Steve Francis being like one of those inefficient scoring point guard guys. So I don't know. It could have been a lot different for T-Mac, but it just didn't.
I remember he went like 13 straight years without getting out of the first round of the playoffs. Something insanely like.
Right. I mean, it was like the same luck that Chris Paul
Yeah.
has, basically. Like, T-Mac was just that before Chris Paul was that. But yeah, I always liked Tracy McGrady a whole bunch. And when was that? Like, he scored...
He scored 13 points in 30 seconds.
Right. It was something, because I remember on ESPN that night, they extrapolated, like, if he kept that pace for a whole game, he would score 347 points in a game. Like, something stupid like that.
Stats for everything.
Yeah, and I'd be like, what? He's the best ever. I remember Reggie Miller doing a similar thing like that. All right, so my number 2, and I'm going to guess it's your number 1, is Kobe.
Yep. We can go ahead and talk about Kobe right now.
All right, so, I mean, I think we can talk about Kobe and Westbrook together, honestly, because they're 1-2, 2-1, right, on our list. So I would have always said Kobe in front of Westbrook, but just after this offseason of basketball, I feel like Westbrook has earned the number 1 spot as my favorite player. Like, because we live in a state that doesn't have professional sports teams. We didn't have a professional basketball team till late in our high school run. I feel like it was might be the middle.
I'm
Either
about
way,
to say, yeah.
until high school. So, like, for instance, in football, I love the Jacksonville Jaguars. But when they have a bad season, it doesn't really affect me. I'm just like, oh, another bad season, okay. Or like in baseball, I like the Mariners. But I'm like, oh, the Mariners suck this year. Okay, I don't care. But when you have a team in state, you care so much more, it seems like. Like, I watch every Thunder game when... And the fact Russ signed the extension, I know they could trade him, and people are all pitching that shit lately.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, he's the dude for the sports team in our state, so I think he has to be number 1. That's why I went with Westbrook over Kobe. But throughout my life, Kobe has been my favorite.
Yeah.
So
I kind of have this argument of, like, I know we have him in state now, but I take what I originally like Kobe. I can't just switch loyalties just because Westbrook's here in state now. I love Westbrook. I love Westbrook more than I loved when KD was here. Like, I would stick up for Westbrook when everybody's like, oh, why is he not doing this for KD, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's his own kind of player, and we got to see that last year. And Kobe, oh, man. He means so much to me because he was like an inspiration to how I think, like, I view life. Like,
Mamba mentality,
exactly. He overcame the trial in Denver. Like, he would go to court and then the next day drop like 40 points, not affecting him at all.
Right. And Kobe's whole thing is crazy. So originally why I liked Kobe, I mean, he was young coming out of high school, and that was cool and all that. But he had a video game on Nintendo 64. I think he had 2 or 3 Kobe Bryant's, whatever, but it was his name on it. And I loved that game. It had 4-point hot spots that would show up on the court when you played. I really, really liked that game. So through that, I'd be like, oh, Kobe's cool because video game's cool, which is a stupid way to choose. But then he became awesome. And then I really like Shaq's personality, but Shaq as a player, I always got annoyed at because he was just so dominant and lazy. And so whenever him and Kobe started beefing, I was like, fuck yeah, Kobe. And I bought in even harder.
Yep, exactly.
So all of it. And then his whole trial thing, which I think in today's world is crazy. I think if that happened today, you might get suspended. Because basically the whole thing was he was like an 18-year-old kid, maybe 19 at that time, and then he had sex with like a 16-year-old or out in a hotel, something more or less.
Well, he was actually, like, when that time happened, it was actually in his early 20s. So
okay, so he might have been 2021.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember that being all kind of crazy at the time, but you always was like, well, he's a professional athlete, and how is he supposed to ID people? But I think if that happened today, it'd be like, yes, you're supposed to ID people.
Yeah, he probably would have got suspended for a year in the league now.
Right. I think his last game going out, scoring a bunch of points was awesome. I mean, he just had a lot of good moments. And then that's another person that was almost traded once. I mean,
yeah, ended up almost getting traded to the Clippers. Like, what in your right mind would be like, you know what, I want to leave the Lakers to go to the worst franchise in sports history, not even in NBA history, sports history.
Well, and to the one that at the time had the racist owner.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how racist he was. He just used the N-word.
I don't know if that wasn't his mistress, like, Hispanic.
Right,
like,
that's what I was saying.
Like
his mistress,
but he's trying to own her in my mind. Like,
maybe
he brought this Hispanic woman.
I think all old rich men are trying to own people.
Exactly.
That's just the way it works. But yeah, the whole Donald Sterling thing was crazy, and so if Kobe would have been around through that, that would have made it even crazier. I think the Lakers got screwed on the Chris Paul trade. That will always be the one thing that I think is the biggest obvious NBA overstepping its bound moment.
Yeah, there are two big trades in the NBA that altered the history from the year like 2000s on. That one is that Lakers trade that got vetoed, and two is that James Harden trade.
Right. And the James Harden trade, I don't think he ever becomes what he is if he doesn't leave and go on his own. So I think it's better for basketball at the end of the day. But yes, of course, it's crazy that 3 MVPs, because I think James Harden will win it this year, and he won the player vote a couple years ago. We're on a team together, and then lost to fucking the Heatles in the finals. And that was the worst as a Thunder fan. But I think the other one was crazier with Paul to the Lakers because the NBA owned the New Orleans Pelicans. I think they're still the Hornets maybe at that time. They owned the team, and they vetoed it because they felt like the team they were trying to sell wasn't getting enough back.
Exactly. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the library at college at ECU, and I was just viewing everything, going through my home. My dad called me. He was like, "Did you see what just happened?" I was like, "What?" I look on ESPN. I drop everything. I start yelling in this library, looking all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Yeah. And then it got denied. I yelling about that too. I was like, I had to get up out that library. I was heated at that point.
And I think another thing that makes Kobe kind of stand out is he was like a photocopy of Jordan, right? Like, so a lot of his moves. And as someone who I didn't love Jordan for whatever reason, a lot of people who love Jordan would hate on Kobe. Like, he's just trying to imitate. So then I could be like, well, fuck you. And then I had it solidified my love for Kobe even more because you had to defend him with Jordan lovers.
Yep.
And then towards the end of the career, there's all the LeBron lovers, and they're like,
and Kobe like, oh.
Yeah, and they're like, well, LeBron's better than Kobe. And you're like, and there was like 2 years that it was a really fun rivalry, and then Kobe kind of fell off, and LeBron kind of peaked a little more, and then it really wasn't anymore. But for a while, that was a fun rivalry. I mean, Young Jeezy had the song 23-24, I believe was the name of it.
Yeah, I mean, they was with each other, which was hilarious.
Right. So there were some really good moments there. But again, I have Westbrook over Kobe just because I'm trying to live in the moment, and Westbrook is the dude at the moment. And I understand how everyone says all the negative things about him. I think he probably does play too fast to be a team sport. Like, just no one's ever ready around him, and he forces some of the worst shots. It's just the thing is, sometimes they go in, and then he gets too much confidence off of it, and you're like, well, he's going to keep shooting that now.
Yeah, the most irrational confidence guy.
Right. It's like Dion Waiters' irrational confidence, but he's way more athletic.
Yeah. And that's probably something those are your top two. They're 1 and 3 in my book. Russ will probably jump up in a couple more years. But as far as you notice, the reason they're that high on our list, at least for me in my eyes, is because they care so much. They show that they care about the game.
Right. Well, I think a lot of the people on my list, all but Charles Barkley, because Charles Barkley is, I'm not going to say he's soft, but he's definitely not the hardest of the forwards, right?
I don't know. He fought Shaq.
That's true. But all the rest of them, they kind of have like a shit-talking demeanor. Like Gary Payton talked a lot of shit. AI would talk shit. Kobe did it, but it seemed like a more educated, mean way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if that
I
makes sense.
always think about the time Matt Barnes threw that ball in the timeout. Kobe's like, you're not really throwing this.
That's one of the best gifts of all time. Now, I know Kobe did get, 2-punch combo by Chris Childs. Is that who it was?
Yeah.
And that was whack. But, I don't know. I love Westbrook in press conferences, especially back when it was him and KD, and he would, we're not answering that. Or just whatever. He would Marshawn Lynch it back in the day. And I just like everything about the way Westbrook handles himself. And I love all the shots he takes at KD with the cupcakes.
Oh, it's so
or
good.
Or the photograph outfit.
It's starting to become legendary at this point.
Right, and his whole adopt a cat t-shirt. I mean, he's what is I'm trying to think, is that on Jalen Jacoby where the competitiveness?
Yeah, the competitiveness, yeah.
It's the competitiveness award. So anyway, Westbrook's real good there. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and just talk about what's going on with the Thunder and the rest of the NBA. right, and we're back. So, Dom, how do you feel about the Thunder at this point of the season?
Oh, the Thunder. I'm worried about the Thunder.
I will say I like their new uniforms, the dark blue and light blue line ones. They look super dope. I don't think they've gotten a win in them yet, but they look really good.
They might have to scrap them out if they losing them continuously now.
Right?
So, what do you think? Do you think they should fire Billy Donovan?
I don't know if it matters. I just don't think Russ is going to listen to many people. So a lot of people have thrown out Mark Jackson, David Fizdale, all these people to replace Billy Donovan. Maybe it works. I don't think they're running Billy Donovan sets currently at the moment.
Well, they're doing something like they're either running the right sets or they're going to the basket. They're doing something right in these first 2.5 to 3 quarters in every single game.
Right. First quarter of most games, they look good. And they really do just fall apart. So, like I said before the season started, I think on the last podcast you're on, I would like to see Carmelo come off the bench. And now that's gained a lot of steam of people acting like that would solve things. But they start well. That's not really the problem. So, I don't really know if they need to do something to adjust the minutes to where the bench people have a scorer on there. But I really like Grant. I really like Abrinas. Like, there's a lot of guys on the bench I like, so I don't really know what they would do differently.
The Melo thing coming off the bench, I don't like him coming off the bench just because it hurts his psyche. Now, if you're telling me, we're 5 minutes into the game now, we're going to rotate our people out, and then Melo can play with the second unit whenever they come on.
Right.
At the beginning of the second quarter.
I think his psyche needs hurt because right now he's I'm going to take 20 shots a game as a third option. That just can't continue to
Well, Russ
be a
is
thing.
feeding that though. Like he's letting that happen. I know what Russ is trying to do. He wants to make sure everybody's happy and he's going to have these guys cuz he just signed that big ass extension.
Right. Well, I mean Carmelo will be there next year. He's not going to walk away from the money in my opinion. Because he's not going to sign another deal with that much money a year.
Yeah.
And I think he can play one more year and then sign another contract somewhere else. I think Paul George, everyone acts like he's just already out. He does look really good a lot of nights. Some nights he doesn't. Again, they're just the streakiest shooting team. Like they're either all hitting or none of them are hitting shots.
Yeah, when it's just Paul George and Russ on the team, are on the floor, it's very positive, very high numbers.
Right, and Steven Adams has been looking good, especially the last game. He went 11 for 11, done a Euro step.
I know.
Which was crazy. Like
he's been hanging around Russ for too long now.
Right, so like I think a lot of things could look good. I think Patrick Patterson being better would help.
Oh, man, that's been the biggest disappointment in my eyes just because he was billed as he can make outshot shots. He is absolutely abysmal from the deep.
See, I'm kind of, and I know it's blasting me a little bit because I love Carmelo. I'm kind of one thing if I could take back the Carmelo deal and they keep Cantor and McDermott, I would maybe take that. Not just because they're playing fairly well in New York, but like I thought McDermott, it was going to take until the next year for him to get comfortable anyway. And Cantor, yes, he doesn't play great defense but he is a really good backup center for when Adams isn't in there. He's going to get the boards. Like, he's a good rebounder. So, and I think that's another thing that is definitely hurt this year is we are not out-rebounding other teams like last year.
Yeah, Thunder used to lead the league for the last 6 years now of something rebounding. Like and this year it's finally dipped off. That could just be due to Cantor and his 9 to 10 rebounds that left with him. But they have the athleticism and length now to get to some of these balls.
Right. And, like, I don't really like Houston, so I'm cool that they didn't extend him or offer him a qualifying offer, whatever it was. I don't know. I look at the team, and I'm like, I feel like they should be all right, but we've just seen so many games where they just fall apart. It's like and maybe that is on Billy Donovan. Maybe he does not have a system in place for those three guys to make it work. But I don't know if another coach necessarily would.
I really like Mark Jackson. I know that's finally starting to build up some hype. I don't think it will actually come to fruition, but
it would make it fun for when they play the Warriors to add even more to it, right? So that would be cool. A lot of people seem to really like Fizdale. I don't understand why, I guess. Like, I get it. He was an assistant on the Heat. He kind of modernized Marc Gasol because now Marc Gasol's hitting threes and shit. So maybe he would be good. I've never seen any like playmaking or anything from him, play calling, that'll be like, yeah, he could solve the team. But I've heard that talked about a lot.
Well, Memphis Grizzlies last year, they went through 28 different lineups because of injuries, and they still made the playoffs and still took the Spurs to 6 games.
Well, I guess I would be concerned he's going to bench Westbrook like he benched Marc Gasol.
I don't think he'd.
But it's cool because he would probably bench Carmelo at times it was needed, so I could see it working.
See, he'd bench Carmelo before he'd bench Westbrook. I think he'd view Westbrook as he did Mike Conley.
Right.
Like, that's his guy he's going to war with. And nobody else on that team has that. Marc Gasol, for one, the reason he got benched, he was ineffective. He needed to get benched.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. So we'll kind of just talk about random NBA stuff. We might get back to the Thunder. We'll see. So the whole Marc Gasol thing, I really like Marc Gasol, and he's really good. I don't think he is. To his point, I think he should have played some of the fourth. Right? Like, I mean, he is your best player. Like, even if he isn't effective, but didn't the Grizzlies still lose?
Yeah.
So, like, if the Grizzlies won, I think Fizdale has a little bit to lean on. Like, well, hey, we won the game. But since they didn't, it kind of had to happen the way it happened in a way. Like, if you're going to lose one of them, I think losing Fizdale is the way to go, unless the Grizzlies are ever going to fully try to rebuild. But they're going to try to do the patchwork rebuild.
Yeah, and I don't really like that. I mean, they've already traded away, like, a couple of their true grit and grind players like Tony Allen and Zach Randolph,
right,
or people who just left just because of salary differences.
Well, and their 2021 pick is going to the Celtics. So if they try to wait to rebuild, they're not even going to have their picks then.
Yeah.
So it's like right now is kind of the time they have to do it, or they should do it.
I mean, they could sell high enough on Gasol because Gasol isn't that old. He's, I believe, just 33 right now.
Maybe 32.
Yeah.
I think the same age as LeBron.
Yeah. So Gasol isn't that old. Mike Conley also just turned 30, 31 actually.
I just don't know who's trying to get a center.
Yeah.
Like, the NBA is super weird these days. And I read something the other day about it, kind of the way Brad Stevens operates, right? He wants to play one point guard because the way he thinks of her is he thinks of ball handlers, bigs, and wings, and that's like his 3 positions. So he wants to play one big man with one ball handler and 3 wings. So it's like when they're drafting, they've done such a good job of drafting Jason Tatum because he knows he's playing 3 wings at all time. So get enough minutes for them.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of people don't think of it like that. So like in the Thunder, I mean, they're kind of doing it. They have 3 wings, a big man, and a ball handler. But Robertson still pisses me off. I mean, I don't know if there'll ever be a moment he doesn't piss me off.
That moment will come as soon as they trade him. Then he won't be able to piss me off
I don't
anymore.
know. Like,
he's the most frustrating player on that team because you can be as amazing as you want defensively, which is fine. I know it's technically half of the game.
Right.
But that half doesn't score any points. And I need to be able to score points now.
I would just be curious to know, like, I'm sure there's an actual name for this stat, but like, whatever, like James Harden's normal shooting percentage is versus what it is when guarded by Robertson. You know what I mean? Like,
there is something from that.
Is his so good that it's worth it? Because I'm thinking like most guys don't shoot over 40% from the field. So if he's not dropping it like dramatically, then I don't think it's worth it to leave him out there. But if he's dropped it like, yeah, they shoot 20% against him on average, then yeah, I guess he might be worth it because he's dropping, half of their shots or whatever. But at the moment, and sometimes he looks good. Like he'll do like a cut to the basket and someone will find him going in, or every once in a while he'll hit a jump shot and you're like, oh shit, it's going to all come together. But then the next time he shoots a 3-pointer and airballs it, you're just like, God damn it, Robertson.
Pull him immediately. Oh.
He's the opposite of Cantor. Cantor couldn't play defense, but could play offense. Robertson is the opposite for sure.
Yeah, and if you're asking me which of those 2 players I would have rather had, it would have been Cantor, hands down.
Yeah, not even close. I saw some other crazy trades. The Ringer were doing some basically crazy trade proposals that would never happen sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what Bill Simmons is famous for. And this one was trading Westbrook to the Pelicans. The Pelicans trade Boogie to the Wizards, and the Wizards trade Bradley Beal and Drew Holiday, I think, ended up on the Thunder, and they got rid of Westbrook. The Pelicans got rid of Cousins and I don't remember who they got, and then the Wizards paired up John Wall and Boogie, right? And
that even almost worked.
I know, and even though I love Westbrook, I was like, oh, Bradley Beal at the 2 and not Robertson. That's enough to make me be okay with that.
I would like all of those teams a lot more. Not the Thunder. I actually wouldn't like the Thunder,
right? Because I love Westbrook more. If we could get Anthony Davis on the Thunder, right? Yeah, that would be sweet. The Thunder do play tonight against the Spurs, I believe.
Yep, yeah. It's the Spurs.
So I'll be watching that. I don't think they have Kawhi still. It's crazy that they have such a good record without Kawhi.
Yeah, this Kawhi thing, I'm starting to get worried about his health. Like,
he looks fine. I understand he just has one look on his face at all times. When they show him on the sidelines, he doesn't look crazy injured, right? You're not gonna like look at it and be like, "Oh, you can't play basketball." So I'm very curious exactly what it is.
Is Pop just secretly doing a rest thing for Kawhi, and he's like, "I'm gonna bring you back the second half of the year, and then we'll."
Maybe they made a deal before, like, once we hit 500 record, you can come back. And then they just haven't gotten close to it. Because whatever reason, LaMarcus Aldridge
is finally balling out.
Right, keeping them afloat. There's also that other dude. I hate the way he looks, but I like the way he plays Anderson.
Kyle Anderson, yeah.
There's something about the way Kyle Anderson looks when he's playing basketball that I'm like, I would just want to punch that guy. But he is pretty good. Some other basketball things. I mean, I know... kind of like the rookie watch, right? So, like, a lot of rookies are really good out there.
There is one particular rookie, though, who is terrible. And I'm going to let that just marinate there with it, starting with his daddy.
I think Lonzo's terrible. I mean, I've never been on the Lonzo train. I'm more of a LeVar fan than a Lonzo fan, which I know is against everyone.
I pegged you as that. That's fine. I hate LeVar, so...
I think he's entertaining.
Oh, yeah, he's entertaining.
I think he's just trying to build his brand, and I think all these sports stations want to hate on him, but yet have him on their show.
Yeah, I don't understand that. If you keep like insulting him or whatnot, yet you bring him on every single segment that you possibly can, it's very hypocritical. And LeVar, in my mind, is also hypocritical because he said, "Oh, I'm doing this for my boys. No, you're not. You're doing that to get rich." Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want you to tell me.
I think the whole Ball family is awesome. LiAngelo's been my favorite because he's the one that wasn't projected to go to the NBA, so I wanted to like him. Then he gets fucking arrested, and then who knows when the next time he'll play basketball is. He probably wouldn't even made the NBA anyway, but I figured he at least got like a G League spot on the Lakers, right? Because that happens to brothers of famous players. And really, is it LaMelo, the youngest one?
Yeah, LaMelo.
I'm really interested in LaMelo, but they're pulling him out of public school, so he's only going to play AAU.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to go to college. I think he's going to be ineligible for it because of the shoe deals.
Yeah, he could be ineligible for that. NCAA could bend some rules, though, because they're not a real governing party. Like, they make up their own rules on the fly, so we'll just kind of see there. The one and done rule might be done
by that time. I know Silver has been bringing it up.
But I do feel like LeVar could be hurting LaMelo's chances to be as good as he could be unless he's taking this money and he's going to hire Ray Allen's going to come shoot with you for this afternoon, right? Or he's going I could see him going out of their way to put more money into his training than an average high school kid could. But I'm interested to see what happens to him because chances are he doesn't go to the Lakers as well, right? Like, there's going to be a time where he plays his brother in the NBA, and then I'm curious what happens to LeVar then, because LeVar's so Lakers that is he always going to love Lonzo more?
He's going to speak it into existence for one.
Right.
He's just going to speak it in. LaMelo's going to be on the Lakers as well, and we're going to have the best family backcourt of all time.
Maybe that's the goal, is don't get them drafted so they can just walk on and get signed. I don't know. It's just very interesting. The Sixers are awesome these days. When Embiid plays, they're awesome. I don't want to like them because I don't think Ben Simmons should be the goddamn rookie of the year.
So you have that same argument against like Blake Griffin and everything. If you set out a year, you shouldn't be the rookie of the year.
Yeah, I just think that should be the rule. If you were not having an NBA contract the previous year, you can win rookie of the year. If you had an NBA contract, you can't win it. I don't see what's so horrible with that. I really kind of hope that whenever they start discussing the one and done rule change, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, think 2 and none's the way to do it. Like, you rather go 2 years or you can go straight from high school. I don't see where to me, it would just make more sense if you done it by, you could declare at any time after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, no year. Like, just whenever you want to declare, you could. I think that makes the most sense. I could also see them doing it like baseball, kind of, where like you could come out of high school, get drafted, and still go to college.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see what would be the worst thing about that either. But it would be the most fun if they developed the G League, to where if they said like you can come out of high school, but you can't. Your first year has to be in the G League before you can come to the pros. I would watch the G League. So I mean, I feel like that's really the most fun way to do it, is if people just did it that way. Because then you're always gonna have guys that come out that aren't ready, like Sebastian Telfair, best documentary ever.
Oh man,
love that movie. But then some guys like LeBron shouldn't have had to go to college, and he didn't. But if he came up now, he would have to go to college, and I'm like, I don't see why. He was a man. He was ready.
Yeah.
So I just think there's an easier rule.
If they did something like that, though, I could see that causing issues for one with like the NCAA, because
who cares about the NCAA? They don't do anything for the NBA.
That's true, they don't, but I don't know. I feel like there's some legal battle being had. You're taking all of our high school players that are prospects potentially, and you're just taking them and you're putting them in their own league when they could be in college getting an education, which they don't do. But
they don't. So when a kid, let's say like there's some kid that's really good at plumbing, he's a goddamn plumbing prodigy. 16 years old, the day and then he graduates high school at 18, can he just become a plumber? Isn't he a professional? If someone hired him or he started his own business, people trusted him or anything like that. Like, I don't see why in just a sports world there's all these, no, check all these boxes first of college, when there's plenty of other things. When you're 18, you can just do it. I mean, in Europe, there's like 12-year-old kids signing the contracts to soccer clubs.
Yeah.
And they just play soccer from there on out. So I think we tie a lot of random bullshit into it. Like, well, you got to go to college to do this. Whereas I'm like, God, don't necessarily think so. Like, I think if even in the NFL, if they could keep their own little, if their practice squad had to be kept to a certain number, like if they could do as many as they wanted, and then NFL teams were like just signing dudes out of high school, and they're like, no, we're just going to make you badass in 4 years.
Yeah.
And like they could take care of their own stuff. Like, I can see that working in any sport. It's weird that we have to foster a college system to make athletes ready when they're not. I don't know. It's just odd, kind of.
Yeah, see, like I'm definitely for like coming straight out of high school, going into professional league. That I'm so for that. It's just, I don't know the legalities of having everybody that you can just sign and just have them there.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's a different dynamic.
So also trying to stick with our NBA topics, something I've been thinking lately is the Eastern Conference seems better than what everyone thought it was going to be. Like, even though I know their all-stars are going to be guys like Tobias Harris and people that aren't like necessarily huge household names, but they have good teams.
Yeah, they have decent teams. I mean, they got Boston.
I mean, I think it also helps that some teams in the West, like the Thunder, aren't looking good.
Yeah.
Even though they have so many superstars on the team. But yeah, Boston looks really good. Like, I don't even know what they look like if Gordon Hayward didn't get injured.
Would they be challenging Golden State at that point if they didn't have Gordon Hayward injured?
I mean, I think they already are, because they have enough length. I don't think they could probably win. They probably can't win in a 7-game series against Golden State, because they're eventually in 4 of those games they're just going to shoot well enough. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like the same thing that when the Thunder almost beat Golden State, in the conference finals, where they're just going to have enough length and be able to switch on enough stuff that they're going to be able to hang with them. But the rumor is Gordon Hayward might be back for playoffs.
Oh, man, I would love for that to be a thing.
That would be really, really cool. The Cavs, I know, are like back.
Yeah, they've won 8 in a row now. So
Right, so they're doing good. Is it all because Derrick Rose left? Was he just so bad that his presence made them lose games?
Look, and he also, Derrick Rose caused the plague to happen, because Tristan Thompson, who's an Iron Man, hasn't missed a game in his life,
right,
got injured. You know why? Because Derrick Rose is on that team.
Yeah. It's contagious for sure. So I like seeing LeBron. LeBron's like block city this year. Like he's just gonna try to get as many blocks as possible, which is cool. I think that's the best LeBron.
Yeah.
That's really his highlight plays. So I'm hoping they all do well and everyone's healthy. The Bucks have they're a big story, then no story, then a big story because of Bledsoe, and then no one's talking about them again. I haven't really kept up with them.
Yeah, they're like a middling team, which is what I expected. I didn't expect them to be a top 3 or 4 team, even in the East. I was like, well, they're going to be like 5 or 6. They got Giannis and...
Right. Well, and then fucking Powwow with one of his predictions of the playoffs was completely right, and I hated on him, was the Pistons. He put the Pistons in his number 8 team, which looks like they're going to be like a top 4 team, probably.
Yeah.
I watch them play, and there's just something about it where I'm like, I don't think they're for real. And I understand they probably are. And all the stats back up that they'll be able to keep up this pace with Avery Bradley. And I just don't like Reggie Jackson.
I hate Reggie.
I just don't like watching him play for the most part. But Andre Drummond, it's so old school. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work. But they get wins.
Yeah, and he's hitting his free throws now. That
Right.
probably was the biggest help. Like, him actually hitting like 60% to 70% free throws. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and then I also been seeing where a lot of people are wanting the Clippers to make some trades. They want the Clippers to trade DeAndre Jordan, get him on a contender. Yeah. I don't think this is like people in the NBA, but like the media that covers it. They're like, drumming up their stories. I just want the Clippers to try to hold it together. I don't know. I really like Blake and DeAndre together, but for whatever reason, other people are all against that union continuing much longer.
I saw they're trying to trade DeAndre, or not trying to, but people are speculating DeAndre to Cleveland for like Tristan Thompson and some other piece.
I think it was Tristan Thompson a pick, but I don't see how the Clippers
That's
would
not
do
good
that.
enough for me.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think DeAndre Jordan's quite a bit better than Tristan Thomas.
Agreed.
But the big joke around that was Tristan and Blake being on the same team, their sisters.
They could go to family get-togethers.
I'm sure there's other NBA stuff. Let me see if they're, as far as standing wise, I'm surprised how good Minnesota really has been doing because I didn't predict them to be able to like keep it up.
Yeah, well, it also has to do with the Thunder not being as good because they've now times at the beginning of the year, which is crazy, and they're in the same division. So
so right now the Thunder are in the 9th seed.
Mm-hmm.
That 9 and 12. New Orleans is 12 and 11. So they would have to win 4 games to jump them, which is crazy that they're that many back. I would find it hard to believe that the Thunder 9 because the Clippers, Lakers, Suns, Grizzlies, Kings, Mavericks are all underneath them.
Yeah,
I don't
most
think
of those are terrible teams.
Right. So really, it's going to be if the Thunder can catch New Orleans. I think Utah will not keep it up.
I also don't think so. I think if the Thunder get it right, like just finally start clicking for the whole games, they can jump back up to like the 4 seed.
Right. I mean, like theoretically, I think they could win like 10 games in a row. Like they could rattle some off like that, but we'll just see if it happens. The Pelicans I really like, but people are trying to act like they are going to trade Boogie.
I'm like, why? They're playing great. Have you seen Boogie and Anthony Davis on the court at the same time? They're fantastic.
Would be a great 7 or 8 seed to play against the Warriors, who are a 1 and 2, because I think that Twin Tower style would cause problems for the Warriors. Yeah. So I think it'll be a fun playoff series. I said I don't think Utah will stay in. Portland, I just don't believe in Portland. I like a lot of their players, but I just watch them like, God, they're not that good.
Yeah, which is what's odd. Portland's now up to number 2 defensive efficiency rating. And
really?
In case you don't,
And Thunder is number 1?
No, Thunder's number 3 now. Boston's number 1.
Oh yeah.
It was Boston and Thunder finally moved down to Portland, which is crazy because they have Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, which
the
are
worst
terrible
defensive backcourt in the league. And then the Nuggets are 4th in the West, which is crazy because they sucked at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're still holding on there, but I could see them falling definitely for sure. And then in the East, the Knicks we have at the 8th seed in the East, which I think would be fun because I think Porzingis is great. And I mean, how can you not like Porzingis?
Oh, he's so good. Who's all right? I know this is going a little off topic here. Who's the best center right now? Like young centers that we're seeing. We see Porzingis, we see Embiid, Anthony Towns.
I mean, probably Embiid. I mean, if you're saying everyone's healthy, I think you have to go with Embiid. If not, I think I would go. You know, I know Anthony Davis plays a 4. I would much rather have him at a 5, and I would probably choose him. But I think Boogie's real good, and I think Karl Anthony Towns is overrated until he learns how to play defense. Because right now he's just a big dude who doesn't play defense.
Yeah, which is crazy because he was built as a defensive player and
Right.
coming out of college. But I would probably go 1, Boogie. Boogie's done a lot in my mind.
Yeah.
2, Porzingis. I really love Porzingis games now. And 3, Embiid.
Well, they play Porzingis at the 4 as well. Like, say
Yeah.
on the same argument as
Anthony Davis.
right. So that's always weird when they play. Just play with 5. We have stretch 5s now.
Yeah.
I don't see what the big deal is. So they got the Knicks in. The Wizards are at the 7th seed. And they're probably going to drop because John Wall's out, and that sucks. I love John Wall. The Sixers are in the 5th seed, which is way higher than I thought they'd be at any point in time in the season.
See, I had them being like an 8th seed at like.
That's what I
going
put
in.
on our predictions that we did. And then, like I said, Detroit's a 4. Toronto's a 3. I just never watched Toronto games. They are just really boring to watch.
They are. The Drakes aren't. I mean, they're just consistent in what they do.
Right.
I know they're going to lose in the second round every single year. They're kind of like the Atlanta Hawks were
Right.
a few years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And then some of the ones that are on the outside looking in, I'm like, the Miami Heat are the 10th seed. I really thought they were going to make it. Orlando, that started really good, they fall into the 11th seed in the East, which is just crazy because, like I said, they were
like number 1 for a little, or right under Boston. So
And then I really was hoping, I didn't predict them, but I was hoping the Nets would make the playoffs this year because I thought it was just going to be the year for the Nets. But I guess that's not going to happen.
once Jeremy Lin went out, it was kind of game over.
I know Jeremy Lin he's just so important to the team. So yeah, I mean, think at the moment MVP race, if I had to guess, I would say Harden.
Harden has the best number. His team looks great, but I think there is an argument for Kyrie. I know he doesn't have the best stats, but the narrative is there. He left LeBron, and now his team is better.
Yeah, when me and Powwow done the predictions for the NBA season, I actually mentioned Kyrie and how I think he would be a good dark horse candidate for all those things you just mentioned. I do really like him. It's just James Harden stat wise.
I can't deny that.
Right, it's crazy. My defensive player of the year prediction was Rudy Gobert, and he's out, so that was all out the window there. And they'll just hand it to Draymond again for nothing.
Yeah, can't give it to Kawhi this year since he's out for 20-something games.
I know. I mean, another easy one for him. I could honestly see KD getting in if he tried, like he did in the playoffs last year. Like, KD's really good at defense. Who would have known? Us in Oklahoma had no idea that he was that good. All right, man, so that's really all I have about basketball talk. Is there anything else you got?
Well, I don't have anything basketball-wise, but I do have something football-related.
All right, let's go for it.
So, as of when we just recorded this, the college football playoff came out. Alabama did get in as the 4th seed with
2 losses?
With 1 loss, but they didn't have a conference champion. They're not a conference champion. So, it looks Clemson, Oklahoma,
I thought
Georgia.
they lost once in the season and they lost the conference championship.
Nope, they only lost to Auburn. That was in the Iron Bowl, the last game of this year. And then that was to go to the conference championship against Auburn and Georgia, which it was.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I saw Alabama got in. Who are the other teams? I think Oklahoma's won.
Oklahoma, Clemson, and Georgia.
Georgia, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a better solution still to playoffs than what would have happened.
Yeah, the BCS would have just had 2 teams.
Like, I've seen a lot of people complaining, like, oh, just these 4. And I'm like, do y'all not remember we had just these 2, like, a few years ago? I think eventually they just need to probably make it 8 teams or whatever number, right? And I'm sure that's what will happen in the future.
Yeah.
They'll make more money by adding extra rounds.
I mean, what they got, it's the New Year 6 bowl. That's what they do, 6 bowl games, 6 of the big bowl games. Why can't you just make all of those playoff games instead of 2 of them playoff games?
And I think eventually that will happen. I've been trying to pay attention to the NFL, but I just never care anymore. I do the fantasy football. Some weeks I win, some weeks I don't.
Yeah, I've gotten depressed about my fantasy football team in both, in our league at least, because I will have great days, and then all of a sudden, a guy who isn't even playing a quarterback will have Julio Jones score 46 points against me for no reason at all.
Yeah.
But he started Brian Hoyer in one of his quarterback slots. Brian Hoyer doesn't play anymore.
Right. I mean, our league's not that much fun because it is like half the people play and half the people don't. And so it just kind of depends on what your schedule is, which week. Like,
Yeah.
you could have a shitty week and just play someone who doesn't check in and you'll get a win. Or you could have a week where, like, you're paying attention, but you're playing, like, someone else who's also paying attention, and it's a crazy game. Like, every week there's one game that's going to be, like, 104 to 103, and then there's going to be another one's, like, in the 200s.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of another league with my cousin, and it's a weird league. Like the scoring format's very different, but I've been winning lately in it, so I'm just like, all right, I'm just all gonna. I was having a fight every week between Cam Newton and Alex Smith, and I kept choosing Cam Newton back when Alex Smith was going off, and then I was finally like, well, Alex Smith earned the start, and I start him, and then he's shitty, and Cam Newton goes off. So I've been just trying not to even touch it. It's like whatever's been working for me, it's what I'm gonna leave it as.
Yeah, fantasy is depressing, but my actual football team is depressing. The Giants, Eli and Ben McAdoo.
I know, because Geno Smith isn't going to be the answer.
That's my point. Like, you're starting him or you're replacing him for Geno Smith, and especially when we're gonna I don't even know why we're looking at either of the two quarterbacks, because we're gonna have one of the top 5 picks, and we're just gonna draft Rosen or Donald out of USC or out of UCLA. So what are we looking at here?
Right. I think if anything, it just drives Eli's value down in some
It
way.
does.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what the whole point is. But then again, like with the Bills, a lot of people think when they benched Tyrod Taylor for, I don't remember that other dude's name, they benched him for a week and then brought him back. Some people are now saying that was the plan the whole time and a lot of fire underneath him. And I'm like,
that is so.
I know. I don't think it is the case, but that is the conspiracy theory that's out there. So I could see the Giants doing something similar. Like, it does not
you
go
waited,
well.
12 to 13 games in the season we're finally going to light this fire under Eli. He's going to turn our season around.
Right.
So we're already out of the playoffs.
So they're going to bench him this week, next week. And the thing is, if they came out and said, we're not trying to win, we're benching Eli, saving his health, that's a totally different thing than being like, got to see what
we're evaluating
got.
the roster.
Right. It just wasn't a good way to handle it.
Yeah.
My team, Jacksonville, I don't know how their game's going at the moment, but they may make the playoffs for the first time in a while.
I think they're going to win that division. So,
and that division somehow could have 2 teams in the playoffs, and they're easily the worst division, or at least they were for years the worst division in football. I think there's some other bad ones now. But every week I hear people hating on Blake Bortles, and I'm just like, hey, I just think we ride it out. Like, speaking of Eli, people were talking about Eli going to Jacksonville, and I'm like we would want him. Shit, we got Blake Bortles helming things up, but I think the last Jaguar fan that doesn't hate Blake Bortles. Yeah.
You're a rare breed, man.
I mean, what other options do they have? If no one's going to sign Kaepernick, then no one else is going to be good.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I think he's going to win that lawsuit easily.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, you just look around. Look at all the guys starting quarterback. I just think you put on game tape of these guys that have come in this season, and you put on game tape of Kaepernick, and you're like, why wouldn't they have signed this guy?
I mean, the Texans is the most is the biggest crime in my mind, because
they could have just signed him for
tailor-made for a Kaepernick.
Right? They could have just signed for the rest of the year, took him to the playoffs, but they just, I don't know. I mean, I understand some fans are going to be mad. Like, lately in my life, I've spent time around people who do view the other side of these issues than I do. So, like, I've met a guy recently who has not watched the NFL at all this season because of the protests.
Oh, man, that's really hurting.
And I thought that was I just kind of thought it was made up bullshit. I was like, ain't nobody not watching because of the 5 seconds before the game starts. Like, I just don't believe that. But I have met a guy that's like, no, I haven't watched it this year because they're disrespecting the military. And sure, I could have argued with the guy about it, but he was of an age I didn't think it would matter what I said. But that is like, oh, wow, that's crazy. I mean, I've just been basically around a lot of more conservative Republican-ish people that have different views of things, or I'm like, I guess these are real thoughts people have.
Well, I mean, we're here in Oklahoma, so I've come to the point in my life where I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything anymore just because they're set in their ways. They're not up for...
Well, see, I find that I normally had decent success with at least, like, in a one-on-one conversation, I can get to, like, where me and that person agree. We just don't express this. Where I'm like, well, they don't, but it's still bad, right? What's happening to black people being killed by cops. And I mean, sure, maybe this isn't the reaction they wanted to get by taking a knee, and maybe I wouldn't have kept it going once I realized it would have been perverted into this anti-military thing. It isn't really serving their purpose. But like, I couldn't even get there to be like, all right, we'll agree that it's for a good cause, but they shouldn't do it this way. But here it's like, no, they're all spoiled, rich brats. And you're like,
ridiculous.
Okay, I guess I can't talk about this one.
Yeah, they're like, that's why I like college. I like watching the college players. I like, you realize
they ain't getting paid shit.
they're not getting paid anything, but they're trying to become that. That's what they're growing up to be
Right.
a pro athlete and to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, I think people just like their athletes to be, like the starving, hungry, looking for the next bone sort of thing. Not that's a billionaire because he's played all these years and made all these business decisions.
Yeah. In case you are not aware, all pro athletes are winners. For one, they've had to come through whatever struggle they had, and they're getting paid to play a game.
Yeah. Now we'll be curious what the first White House visit is.
Oh, that's
still championship team.
What, didn't the NHL team go?
Did they already go? I know they're invited.
I know they're invited. I don't know if they went, but the NHL team did accept theirs.
Yeah.
Of course, the Warriors declined, and Trump said, no, you're not invited, but it was because it was declined.
Right. I mean, it's a crazy world politically. It's to the fact that, like, a year ago, I was like, I'm going to check all the news because it was so interesting, right? Mm-hmm. The political news. To where now I'm like, it's too interesting, and I don't even want to look at it, or else I'm going to be online all day trying to figure stuff out. So it's like went full circle for me to where, like, I was used to be really into politics, and now because of the world we're in, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ride this one out. We'll see in maybe a few years I'll get back into it, but it's just easier to tone out, which might be the goal. Maybe I just figured that one out.
Yeah, I've been tuning out since Trump basically got in. I'm like, look, nothing's changing. We're just here. It is what it is.
I mean, there might have been some tax cuts or something. I don't know. Something happened recently that I'm like, I just hope it's good for me. Probably not. From what I heard, most middle and lower class people, it will not help. But fingers crossed that somehow it helps. But I have very little faith. All right, well, that's all we have for this week. Looks at basically just all NBA stuff, a little bit of NFL. Next week, we should be back with Powwow. We're doing top 5 favorite. I have no idea. Actually what it is. I know for the Christmas episode, we're going to have a bunch of Christmas themes. In which we're going to have Koopy on, I think, because she likes Christmas way more than me and Powwow.
Yeah, I walked into this house. I'm like, holy cow, it's so festive in here.
Right, we have platters and all kinds of shit. All right, anyway, peace.
All right, thanks.